Join us as we follow one-off builds to all-out restorations in Stuart, Florida's Dreamboat District, home to some of the best custom boat builders in the world. From modest to over-the-top, industry experts from the district's premier facilities show how it's done. Fiberglass repair, custom paintwork, engine rigging, electronics installations, and more. And boating editor George Labonte shares the stories of boaters who have already turned their dreams into reality. This is Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat.
So over at Two Rivers Boatworks, we had a customer get hold of us. He has a 36 Yellowfin that needs a bit of work done to it, and he's got some fuel tank issues with the boat. They've also had a problem with the transom on this boat. When they throttle up, there's a cracking sound coming from the transom. And we actually found that on top of the two stringers, there was a whole lot of, I guess, Cavasol and resin or something mixed, and that had cracked. And our guess is that's probably where that cracking sound was coming from. We were able to chip all of that out. We're now rebuilding the top of the stringers because we're taking the well out, so it's going to be flush. So we need to rebuild those stringers up to where the new deck's going to go over. And then what we're going to do is we're going to beef it up with carbon fiber, probably be able to hang anything off this boat when we finished. Got the leaning post off, then started the tedious job of cutting the deck up so we could get to the fuel tanks. Used a lot of muscle, a bit of ingenuity, but we were able to get them out. The company who makes the fuel tanks for us, they are making the new fuel tanks for the Yellowfin 36. They went in really easy. The guys did a great job putting the deck back on. When it came to the inside of the boat, the more we worked on it, the more we realized that it was just not up to scratch. And I just felt that it needed to be done properly. We basically started with a clean canvas. We resprayed the whole inside of this boat. We then did the non-slip. He's decided to paint the bottom of the boat. He wanted it to match his Yeti coolers, so we had the color matched to his Yeti cooler. We did a few repairs, we faired it out, we painted it, and I'm very impressed with the way it came out. I think it's kind of unique. I've seen a lot of boats with a seafoam sides and a white bottom, but to actually see a boat with a seafoam bottom and the white sides, I'm really impressed by the way it's come out. The boat's looking fantastic. To me, nothing says custom quite like, custom painted cowlings. Larry, who does my painting, is pretty creative, and he put down his own pattern. I have to admit, it came out really, really good. I love the way those motors look. The sea foam against the white, it really, really looks good. And then, of course, there's always those other little custom touches that we've done, like around the bottom of the leaning post and the bottom of the kill box. We've brought the sea foam green in to match the bottom of the boat. I think he's going to get a lot of comments when he goes over to the Bahamas or spends a day at the sandbar with his boat.
Welcome back to Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. Join the team at Two Rivers Boatworks as they begin rigging on the 36-foot Yellowfin project.
At Two Rivers Boatworks, we got a Yellowfin in, and we've done quite an extensive amount of work on it. The guys have worked really, really hard on the boat. They've done a really fantastic job. We get into the final stages of the boat now. We've got the boat in rigging. The guys have been working really, really hard on all the electrics, getting it all neat and in place. You can look at it and make sense of it. So Taco are supplying us with one of their new rub rails. I'm really excited about installing this new rub rail because I've never seen it before. It's a new product. We're going white on white, which I think with the sea foam and white boat, it's going to look amazing.
Hi, I'm Dan McCarthy. I'm the head rigger here at Two Rivers. My responsibilities that we're working on now is a 36-foot Yellowfin. Today we did the rub rail on the boat. One of the things we have to do before we start to put the rub rail on is we went back through, and because this new rub rail is on 8-inch centers on the pre-drilled holes, and the old rub rail was at 6. So we went back through and we basically just took some silicone and we backfilled all the holes so that there'd be no leakage issues or no water intrusion issues. Also, when we went around the boat, it's a 12-year-old boat, so you know it's kissed the dock more than once, and there was a couple places where the top cap to the deck was a little bit separated, so we went back through and we added some polyurethane adhesive up inside there to seal that up, make sure that no water intrusion came in there. Once we had everything sealed up satisfactory like that, we also went back through and tested all the main bolts that lock the cap to the hull. Make sure they were all flush too, so there wouldn't be anything that would cause any problems. The rub rail that we used was a one-piece. It's an extrusion, so they can make it basically as long as you want it. You order it to size, and that way it's one whole solid piece. It's really a cleaner look to go with the one piece like that. It's just a nicer all-around. It's a little bit stronger too. When I do a rub rail, usually the back of it towards the transom, you have some really, that's where you get all your funky angles and your funky wraparounds and things like that. It's easier to start the rub rail on a nice flat straight section. Leave enough, of a tail end to hit the areas where you know you're going to need it on the transom. But start on the flat section, get a few bolts in like that. It'll just give you the nice line. Don't be afraid if the pre-drilled hole, in this case we had probably 5 or 6 instances where the deck to the cap screws, because it has a mechanical fastener as well, was right in the way. Not a big deal. Go over 1 inch, drill a new hole and put it in there. And then go back to the pre-drilled centers and you won't have issues. The insert is usually pinched together to narrow it, so you'll basically bend it in. And it goes in, you slide it in on one side and you push in the other track with the other. It snaps into place and you're good to go. It's meant to be a cover for the screws, so you don't see all the screw heads. But also it's usually the first point of contact with the dock. So it's one of those things that can be easily stripped off and put back on or replaced, as needed in case you have those little boat rash accidents there.
The rub rail came out amazing. The guys did a good job putting it on. I'm really happy to work with Taco. They're producing an amazing product. Next on the boat, we're putting some jack plates on, remounting the engines. Finally, we get to put the custom painted cowlings together. Then the owner has said, take the boat out and give it a good work over. And I have to admit, I'm looking really, really forward to that.
Welcome back to Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. Join the crew at Two Rivers Boatworks as they continue rigging on the 36-foot Yellowfin.
Okay, so over at Two Rivers Boatworks, we've got a 36 Yellowfin in. It's had an extensive amount of work done. It's over in rigging now, and one of the most exciting things for me when we're rigging a boat is putting a really hardcore sound system in. And we've added a few extra subs, another amplifier. So I really think this sound system is going to be something special, and I think it's going to kick. While the sound system's been installed, we put in a jack plate on the back of the boat. The owner of this boat has elected to do, and quite a few Yellowfin guys are doing, is they're taking their motors from 28 off center to 26 off center. It gives them another 3 or 4 miles an hour. You need to bear in mind that these boats were not designed to have the motors at 26 off center. So the guys have some work cut out for them to make sure that it's absolutely perfect, that he can go to wide open throttle and his motors are not going to fall off.
I'm Nate, I'm working on the 36 Yellowfin. Dale's got me putting the jack plates on. First thing we had to do was find the center line on the boat. So we took a measurement for the whole back of the transom of the boat. We divided it in half. We found our rough center line there. We checked that center line 5-6 times, made sure that it was perfect. Dale wouldn't have it any other way. So we made a cardboard template off of the back of the plate. That way we don't have to hold this heavy jack plate up to the back of the boat trying to make our markings. There's things in the way you can't get to make a perfect mark. So we used a piece of door skin, we laid it on the back of the backing plate, and we made that fit exactly to the shape of the jack plate. I wasn't quite sure where I was gonna place it height-wise, So I called the manufacturer. They gave me some advice. They told me to hang it exactly flush with the back of the transom. At that point, I screwed the template to the boat to ensure that it's not going to move at all anymore. From there, we have a template for the motor holes that we use to make sure that the drill bit goes in perfectly straight. It's super imperative that that doesn't go crooked or it doesn't walk on you at all. If that happens, then the bolt simply just won't line up with the bracket. So we needed to have some backing plates fabricated for it. I was gonna maybe make a bar to go across all of the holes in the back to spread the load across the whole weight of the jack plate. But unfortunately on this boat, the stringers wouldn't allow that. So from there, I had to have Scott customize the plates for me and make something a little more special that was gonna work for this boat.
Like everything else on this boat, we beefed everything up, including the backing plates. So we got stock and made our own. I cut them up every 3 inches. If you have a 3x3, you run, 45-degree angle, corner to corner, corner to corner. There's your center mark. So that was our way of getting around making the bars. And it's more than adequate.
We have the backing plates made. Scott did a great job on those. We had to call Daryl in to help us lift this thing. 2 men can't do it by themselves, so we had to bring the muscle in. So now with the jack plate in place, some of the bolts came out really close to the stringers that we couldn't fit our backing plates on there that we made, so Scott had to modify those a little bit further to get them to work and sit flush on the transom inside.
At that time, 26 on center wasn't a big thing. And the stringers were placed where they were placed. You have to work around it. It's all part of the job.
Now that the backing plates have been modified, we basically had to modify 10 out of 12 of the backing plates to fit in a specific spot inside the transom. And we can't really see inside, we can't get a light in there, we can't get our eyes inside. We've got a scope that has a light on the end of it. It's a camera that has a screen attached to the other end. It takes some getting used to for sure, but it definitely helps you get an eye on what you're looking at inside a dark hole. We're on a time crunch on this boat. Dale wanted these jack plates on yesterday, so we're in here full force. Scott and I are gonna make sure that we get this done by the end of today.
The guys have really worked hard on fabricating plates for the jack plate and all that sort of thing. It's a matter now of getting the correct torque settings on the nuts and bolts, getting the motors on. Another neat thing we're doing, we're running all the hydraulic lines and that below deck. So it's really going to be a clean installation. Can't wait to see this boat on the water. It needs to be on the water by the end of the week.
Welcome back to Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. Join us as the experts at Two Rivers Boatworks bolt on some serious power on the 36-foot Yellowfin project.
So over at Two Rivers Boatworks, we got this awesome 36 Yellowfin in that we've done an extensive amount of work on it. We've put new fuel tanks in, we've painted the bottom, we've put jack plates on the back of the boat. It was quite a lot of work. The guys worked really, really hard. Every single backing plate had to be custom made because we've moved the motors from 28 off center to 26 on center. And these boats weren't really designed for that. So the guys have got it all sorted out and we're really, really looking forward to getting the motors hung and reassembling the motors with their fancy new cowlings. I can't wait to see what the paint jobs look like on them.
So now that the jack plate's on, we're gonna get the crew together and all hands on deck, we're gonna wheel the 3 motors around to the engine bay where the gantry's at so we can hook them up and lift them up to the transom. After we got the motors wheeled around to the engine bay, we hooked them up and lifted them up to the back of the boat. We want to make sure we're using high-grade stainless steel for the bolts on these to make sure they've got high tensile strength. We don't want them a couple years down the road to start shearing off. People lose motors that way. Being that we've got this jack plate on there, we're gonna hang the motors at a new recommended height. The center motor needs to be hung a little bit lower, so on the outside motors, we hung those on holes 3 and 5, and the center motor, we mounted that on holes 1 and 3 to bring that down to the recommended height.
So the guys finally got the motors bolted onto the jack plates. I'm super excited about it. The reason being, I think it's because we've reached a milestone. You know, the end is really in sight now. And I saw Nate starting to bring over the cowling pieces, and I got really, really excited to see the final pieces of this puzzle coming together, and to see how our vision and things that have been in my mind for so long are actually playing out, and they're coming out better than I expected them to.
When I'm assembling the cowlings, I like to start from the bottom and work my way up. It just helps me know that I've got everything put together 100%. I'll start with the chaps, which are the two side pieces. I've heard them called the legs before, and then I'll go up and I'll put the two side pieces on. One of them, I call it the snorkel. I don't know what it's technically called, but that's where all the wiring and the hoses go into. And then the back piece, that has to go on next because that's attached by two clips inside. And then finally you can put the top piece on, and everything latches together and locks in tight when that piece goes on.
My crew have put the cowlings on, and I'm really, really impressed with how well they've come out. They're super clean. Nothing screams custom quite like those cowlings scream custom. So we're busy putting the whole boat back together. We're reinstalling the upholstery. Unfortunately, the owner has decided at this time not to redo the upholstery. We really gave it a good deep clean. My crew spent quite a bit of time making sure that they could bring out the best of what we were working with. So we've pretty much come to the end of the Yellowfin build. All we have to do now is hook the electrical system up, do the hydraulics, get hydraulic fluid in, and just go through the systems and make sure everything's safe for us to take the boat out and use it like it was meant to be used. So at Two Rivers Boatworks, we got this 36 Yellowfin that needed a considerable amount of work. We got the boat done and we're ready to get the boat on the water. Got it loaded up and we took it down and launched it. The water was glass smooth. We got the boat on the water and we got our first opportunity to really test this boat. So when we got this boat, it had the 400Rs on. However, it wasn't quite where it should be. We moved the motors from 28 off center to 26 on center. We also put a jack plate on the transom of the boat, and I have to admit it makes a huge difference. I haven't quite experienced a boat that responds to the throttle like this boat does. It is incredibly fast, possibly one of the fastest boats I've been on. Full throttle and the skin on your face flaps. It's an amazing experience. When we got this boat in, one of the major concerns were there was a cracking sound coming from it. So every time you throttled up, you'd almost have a popping sound coming out of the transom. So the owner's exact words were to us, run this boat as hard as you possibly can. Let's find the faults now in the boat and not at a later stage. And I have to say, she behaved flawlessly. This boat was literally getting up to 68, 70 area pretty easily. It was not really overstressing the boat. The boat felt comfortable. It felt definitely manageable. I mean, it was really not much effort to handle the boat at almost 70 miles an hour. One of the things about this boat that I really love driving it is when you really pin it, the bow comes up and you think, wow, when's this boat getting onto the plane? And within like a split second, it's on the plane and it's running away. It's the most remarkable feeling. It's almost like, you know, an aircraft taking off, the bow's up and bang, it's gone. I have to say the boat sort of met or exceeded my expectations on my initial vision. The seafoam bottom is amazing. It looks awesome on the boat. It's not too much, it's the right amount. The seafoam green under the T-top is awesome. The seafoam on in the toe space under the kill box and the leaning post, it makes a difference. It makes a statement that this is a custom boat. This is something that somebody spent money on, and this is a boat that somebody can be really, really proud of.